right, welcome back to the green room. It's Chris here. We're back today. I have my very next guest. Someone's very close and dear to my heart. Brother is literally a brother to me, and we're gonna be talking about something that's very important. And what it is something that we're at some point you're gonna have to know what to do when doors close. It could be when job opportunities don't pan out, a relationship ended, or it didn't go the way you expected. A path that you thought was meant for you, but suddenly it just, lack of better words, blows up in your face. So the question is, what do we do now? Well, the truth is, doors closing can be just redirections, not rejections. Today, we're going to be diving into this conversation and how we recognize when it's time to pivot. How do we reframe those setbacks? And most importantly, how do we move forward and still have the confidence that we had back? As I said, I'm joined today with the great Carson Case. He's been a major influence in my life, and he has his own pivots that he's going to discuss today. He's going to give us insights. He's going to tell us how, from his perspective, how he takes his journey through the green room and gets ready for the stage we call life. So if you're feeling stuck, or you're trying to figure out something, or what's your next move, stay right here, because we're about to figure it out together. And that's what we do here on the green room. So that's going to bring me to our first segment, and when we're going to talk about recognizing closed doors. So let's first talk about the challenge. How do we know when a door is truly closed? Because let's be real, sometimes we make mistakes, sometimes we're in a tough situation, or we might just end up at a dead end. And sometimes we keep banging on that door, or we try to keep punching through that wall. It never breaks, and that door never opens. So I've done some research. I've done some soul searching. I've done some praying. I've done some reading. There's some signs that we don't listen to, but we should when it's time to move on. The first one I'm going to give y'all is you keep hitting a wall. If you've given something and you've given it your best shot, you try different approaches and you still see no movement, it might just be time to take a step back. Number two, you've lost your passion or excitement for what you're doing. If the thought of you continuing makes you more drained than exciting, energized, that might be something you need to evaluate and look into deeply. Number three, the opportunity hasn't clearly ended. Maybe it's a job layoff. Maybe it's a breakup. Or an industry shift that something outside your control has just shut down. And I get it. When doors close, it hurts. There's disappointments, there's frustrations, there's even like, what do I do? You're scared. But before we talk about that, what's next, you have to allow yourself to feel what you lost. And just know it's okay to not be okay. But one thing I've been told is never okay to stay there. Coming from a personal experience, it hurts. And I don't want to move on. But I know me staying there is not going to get me to where I need to be, where God wants me to be. But that's going to take me to the next segment. How do I reframe my mind from that setback? So once you've recognized that a door is closed and the next step is shifting, how do you do it? But and the main question that needs to be asked, that a lot of people don't think, but they end up asking, why is this happening to me? The question that's being missed right now is, what is this trying to teach me? So think of some of the most successful people. Steve Jobs, we know who that is. He was actually fired from Apple, the company he founded. Oprah Winfrey, she was told she wasn't fit for TV. Those closed doors didn't stop them, as we can see. Instead, they pivoted, and their new path turned out to be even better. The key here is curiosity. Instead of focusing on what's lost, start asking the question, what other doors might be opening? What skills do you have that you can use in a new way? Ask yourself, what have I learned from this missed opportunity? The better question I would say is, what was stopped that wasn't for me? So enough about from what my perspective was and the series of questions that I think comes with a lot of answers that we don't expect you to have the answers right now. but not just hearing it from me. I want you to hear from, I consider a guru. I consider a brother, a way, has made a way for me through Bulletproof. And he's going to tell you all about that. I'll introduce you here, Carson Case. You want to tell us about yourself? Welcome to the Green Room. What's your
My
thoughts so far
man,
about it?
my man, I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you, inviting me into this. I think it's a long time coming for you, your dreams, your vision, your wants, and just to see it come to fruition. And honored to be on here, to be invited on here. Man, real quick, I know we're going to dive into some good questions. My name is Carson Case. I was born and raised in Arkansas. I went to college in Myrtle Beach. I moved to Charleston for work. I went from working in Charleston and COVID life, quarantine life to Orlando, Florida, randomly, but again, not so random. And so that's taken me, man, to a couple different places in my life. Now I reside, I'm here in Orlando, Florida with my family. I've got two kids, two boys. They're awesome, they're crazy, they're fun, and they keep me on my toes. And so they are 4 and 3, Cash and Cruz. And I've got a wife, Erin. She's phenomenal. So we've got a big team and a big crazy fam, and God's doing a lot. So I run Bulletproof Human Performance, which is basically a leadership and development and performance company, just to build leaders in all different shapes, sizes, industries, locations. It doesn't really matter who you are or where you're at, but if you want to upgrade leadership, if you want to grow and train to hit a different level mentally, physically, and spiritually, we want to take care of you. We want to love you, and we want to help you get to a different place in life. And then I also do some ministry. So I went from being a pastor to starting Bulletproof Human Performance. And then that took me to getting back into ministry. And through that, now I'm currently in ministry. I'm in business. I've got a family. Man, I love to train. I love fitness. I love outdoors. I love Florida. We've been here for 4 years now, Chris. And so those are a few different things about me, man. Just I think a lot of different variety. And I love creativity. I love people. I love community. I really love investing in people and their leadership and their growth, and then just being a friend. So it's been a really cool journey, man, these past few years, getting me to this point, to the green room with you. And again, bro, honored to be on the podcast and to be chatting with you about some things.
I appreciate you, and we can go on for days about the many stories that we've cultivated, memories, and just the flat out great journeys. Um, we're gonna start with today's first question: Is can you share that time in your story that a major door closed and how you navigated that pivot?
Man, it's a great question. And I think pivots are really important because I think everybody's going to have a pivot. Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, but there will be pivots in life. And I think you can't always be ready for them, but I think you can be proactive and just prepping your mind and your heart and your spirits. Me specifically, Chris, I'll say really quick, I had a massive pivot in my life and in my story when I had lower back surgery from an athletic injury at the end of my high school years. And that pivoted me into a relationship with Jesus, like a true following Jesus, walking with him, learning with mentors, just investing my life in something totally different, from athletics to influence to all these different things. Man, I really started walking that walk. And so that was a pivot. And then it took me into a pivot, which was packing up my truck and going to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, after Google searching a college. And so I went to Coastal Carolina. So that was another pivot. I think my life, man, it's funny, just that question, right? Like my life is full of pivots. If I'm being honest, I love pivoting. And I think it makes life more fun and interesting. It does create hard moments. But I think, even just a word for the podcast is, I think when you embrace a lot of hard moments and when you embrace a lot of pivots in your life, you give extra room for yourself to grow. And if you run from pivots and if you run from moments that are tough and uncomfortable, then you don't have a lot of margin to grow because you're never pushed to get out of those zones that you've resided in for a long time. But back to your question, man, I think the biggest pivot that my life has been filled with a few different ones that have been significant for me. I think the bigger one was a pivot that is probably pretty noticeable and relatable to everybody that's probably listening, which is COVID. It's COVID, it's professional life, it's family life, it's quarantine life, it's the kind of shock of the world, it's loneliness, it's depression, and there was just a lot of moving parts. And a lot of things changed for a lot of folks, including myself and my wife. So I was pastoring in Charleston. That's where we met, and absolutely loved it, enjoyed it. Great people there, great experience, and a lot of memories and a lot of relationships. And then really just through quarantine and just through a shift, I think, in different operations and things, there was a pivot that needed to be done. And so was cared for and offered some other opportunities, some other potential things to do in my life. And I think it's funny enough, we talk about bulletproof human performance and me kind of stepping into that role of leadership development. I think that pivot put me into a really tough place for a short amount of time. And then I was able to take an action step. And so, back to your question, like in regards to my pivot, my personal life, and then I feel like what I was able to absorb from it, which I know might be coming if we walk through some of this, was, man, I was scared. I knew that me and my wife potentially wanted to move cities. I knew that God was orchestrating some different things for us, whether that be in business, whether that be in health and wellness, whether that be in ministry, full time, part time, whatever. But I was broke, I was scared, and I had a child on the way. And so when if you look at the lens of my life, and I hope this relates to the moving parts that maybe some people are experiencing. I was about 25 years old. COVID was happening and it was driving the world crazy as to what you could do or what you couldn't do and where you could go. And what are you going to do with your life? Everybody's kind of boxed in for about a year of time. So I'm 25 years old. I'm married a couple years. I have a child on the way, my first son, Cash, which was amazing, but still scary at the same time for any young or soon to be parents. And I was, in a sense, kind of jobless. Now, there was opportunities, but I really had to discern what was next for me. And not just what I wanted to do, but what did me and my wife want to do? What did our family want to do? What was some vision?
Yep.
And what was the picture that we were painting? And so maybe that's a little marriage nugget that I threw in there, Chris. But it's being married now, going on 7 years, and I really do love my wife, man. And she's just been a huge teammate and partner in my life. I think it would have been easy for me in that pivot time, Chris, to just take the next best thing without consulting with my home team. That's what I kind of call my house, and that being me and Aaron. And I can't really consult with my little son at that time, but I'm thinking about my unit, my family, what is going to be best for us. And for sure, I wanted to make money, and for sure, I wanted a new job and I wanted a new starting gate. But yeah, I think just going back to the original question, that was a pivot in my life, was moving from the coastline in the Carolinas to Orlando, Florida, which we did. We took a huge risk and a huge pivot. And it was scary. We were broke. I feel like we experienced a loss in community, which I think is a huge point. And just the green room podcast mindset is you've got to have people in your room. You've got to have people in your room, and you got to know who's in your room, and you got to know why they're in there, and you got to know what you guys value together. And I think that we were lacking in that. There was a lot of factors and obstacles in that moment of pivot moving. And I think that was probably one of the bigger factors and game changers to my life, Chris, was moving from the Carolinas, where I'd experienced college years and formative years for the young leader, the young Carson, and being married a couple years, having my first son, and moving to a different state without much money or any money, a 3-month-old baby or so, and my wife, and just an open-handed vision, and kind of doing our best to kind of pray through and be at peace about what we were going to do next, but definitely felt that peace. So that was a little bit about that pivot. I know there's more to it.
Yeah. Thank you. And then, so the biggest follow-up question that goes with that was, what was the hardest part of accepting it?
It's good. Yeah. To be very honest, I didn't accept it for a long time. So maybe this is a pinpoint thing for a lot of people mentally. And a lot of the things that I've done in my personal experience, a lot of people that I've been fortunate enough to work with is, there is the physical and kind of the outer world of your life, and things are going to happen and things have to be done. But there's an inner world, right? The character world, the depths, the beliefs, your core, trauma, questions, insecurities, concerns. And sometimes you can make physical moves, right? You can make pivots, and social media will see them. Your friends and your family will see them. Your friends will see them. But as much as you've pivoted physically, you may not have pivoted mentally and emotionally for a period of time. Now, the hope is that you can iron those things out, whether that's in your faith, whether that's with your spouse, whether that's with close friends and mentors and counsel. For me, in my experience, I made a physical pivot in a short amount of time. I didn't really make a mental and emotional pivot or even a spiritual pivot until about 15 months later. So I'd already moved, right? But I think the pressing thing, right, Chris, to your question, was the obstacle and the hardship and the pressingness of wanting to and needing to let go, needing to embrace a new road in my mind and in my heart, not feeling like I needed to hold on to any roots that were already done, that had already been pulled up in my eyes by the hand of God. But I was holding on, right? I was kind of reaching, and I was almost existing in like, hey, what's going to be new? but I'm also still thinking about what's old. And I think a lot of people might experience that just in their own journey and development and leadership and life experience, where you're trying to move to a new thing and you're excited about it, but there's parts in you, there's kind of an inner circle in your life where you're still trying to hold on to a lot of things. And so I think the deep work, right? If I would simplify
Yep.
it to an answer, I think it was the deep mental, emotional, and spiritual work. And the questions I began to ask myself was, how am I actually doing? What did we just leave behind? What did we experience in our past? And how can we celebrate it and honor it a little bit more? I think we can all do ourselves a disservice, because I've experienced this. I did this for about 15 months of my pivot, which was I was angry, I was frustrated, I was bitter, and I was unforgiving to the things that I had already moved past, or that God had moved me past, and I had already physically moved past. And the tough thing about that as a leader, as a human, as a follower of Jesus, is that you're not really doing anything to your past, but you're just wounding yourself. You're continuing to wound yourself without releasing and starting afresh. So it's easier said than done. It took me 15 minutes. I think it was a lot of self-reflection. I think it was just the hardship, Chris, of having to look in the mirror. And I know this is more of a overarching point, Green Room podcast and just life in general. But man, the hardest thing to do in life is to look at yourself. It's great to look at other people and other people's lives and other people's moves and pivots and life changes, but it is very difficult to look in your mirror at your house, at your apartment that you use to get dressed in, or to go out for dinner, or to go out for church, or to go out to the gym, but to really peer into that mirror physically, or figuratively, and say, I got some work to do. There's some work that needs to be done in my life. I may need some help. I may need some conversations. I may need stronger and better community. I may need more wisdom. I may need more tenacity. And I might need to work through some of the things that I haven't let go of. So that was a long answer to the hardship. And there's a lot of details in there, Chris, but I don't have any regrets. I wish, when I think back, I'm like, man, I probably could have moved on a lot faster, but I know everybody says that in all of their situations. I think God taught me a lot. I think I found a lot of peace and silence and solitude. Chris, I don't know if this matters to your question, but when I pivoted, I feel like about 4 or 5 years ago, Chris, I had a lot going on in my life, and today I have a lot going on in my life. But I wasn't managing the lot in my life as well as I am now. And that's not because I'm great or perfect or know it all. There was maturity and there was embracing of hardship and suffering that I had never experienced personally in detail. And so again, I was too fast, it was too speedy, and it made it harder for me. So it's like, man, just the obstacle in my pivot was a lot of me and the deep work within me that needed to come out and to be transparent about, and to figure out my identity a little bit more. Definitely struggle with identity issues in that season. Because if you throw in there, it wasn't just a professional pivot, Chris, but it was marriage. It was becoming a dad of a son. It was having to figure out new community in a new area. Those are all hard things. It doesn't matter how gifted or talented you are. There are shards and pieces in your heart and in your brain where I almost believe there's almost sirens going off in people's brains. On the Green Room podcast, you think about pivots. It will kind of bug your brain, and you'll have to think a lot, and you might be overheating or overthinking or overdoing it or anxious. And you've got to find healthy ways to be able to move through that and get help on that and reflect on that. And that was just a lot of my journey of hardship and obstacles, Chris, during that pivot moment.
And I'm glad you went to that way. And we're gonna go into like a kind of a mindset shift, pivot for topic.
Yeah.
How did you change your perspective on what was happening in that time frame?
Mm.
And what was those practical steps that you advocated for and you took into action yourself that you want to give direction to others?
Yeah, man, a lot of things come to my mind. I want to simplify them, and I love practicality. I think one of the things, man, that was hard, and just as a man, I feel like I get to teach this a lot now, but was complete ownership. Complete ownership. And not because something happened to me or something happened for me or there was something new in my life, but it was owning the things that I could control and I couldn't control, meaning like just embracing them, just being okay with them, just being at peace with them. So ownership, and Chris, here's kind of an answer maybe to that question that's a greater breakdown that I've learned to really live with in the recent 2 years of my life, which is a Cobra culture. So I know that sounds funky, but Cobra culture is something that I work with a lot of guys on, and I kind of try to live out myself. And it is character, ownership, brotherhood, resilience, and accountability. And it's almost like your own personal risk management process, pivot management process, right? To say, hey, these mindsets, I need to focus here. And so it was my character. My character wasn't where it needed to be. And so if I wasn't honest about that, I would just continue to hurt myself longer term, right? I was 25 years old. I'd experienced a lot of stuff. I had a bigger ego. I still have a big ego at times, probably like most of us. But I just thought I thought too much of myself, and not in a way of like I'm not confident, but I just had too many overarching views of what I needed to do and emphasis on the I. And so my character needed work. My ownership needed work of just, you heard me say this earlier, Chris, with some of your questions of like, what did I have to own in my life? And my world, own your world mindset was, okay, there's a job change that I'm experiencing. So what am I going to do next? My son, Cash, is going to be born. How am I going to become the father that I need to become? And what things do I need to start doing and thinking about and praying about and moving upon in order to prepare myself in the best way? Now, nothing can prepare you for fatherhood or motherhood. Honestly, it's going to happen and you learn through it. But that became a bigger thought in my mind was, okay, I have that. I have Erin, my wife. I have maybe a new city, which we move cities, right? So it was just this ownership of like the things that I could control in my life were kind of the mindset shifts. Brotherhood, you know me, that's really how we know each other, right? It was kind of a brotherhood of time in Charleston, me, you, other guys, other people, men, women, couples, just a lot of community. And if I'm being really honest on the podcast, I think over time, in that moment of my life of pivot, my mindset was I needed to be more of a Superman type of figure. I did not want to be as vulnerable or honest about things that I was feeling or that were hurting me. It wasn't really until about 2 years ago, Chris, that I really started to, I would call it like chinks in your armor as a man, where you're just like, man, I really can't take some of this. And I don't know if we're going to get into that, but after about a year and a half of me living in Orlando, I really started to experience attack and doubt and just loss in a way that I never experienced it. And so brotherhood was the emphasis for me and something I really started to walk in through that mindset shift, which was I need to find guys, I need to build up guys, I need to become friends with guys, I need to invite them into my life, I need to ask questions to the right guys. I need brotherhood and networking and discipleship and men who are kind of like minded. They don't have to be exactly like me, but they kind of get where I'm coming from in some of this, and they're just going to love me. They're going to encourage me. They're going to uplift me. And I know some of that did really exist back when we kind of pivoted and moved on, but just in any move in life, that would be my emphasis for anybody is that practical mindset shift of brotherhood, sisterhood. Like you've got to have people in your room, I said earlier. You got to have people in your space, and you really got to know, hey, what are the values that we share and where are we going and what's exciting and how to be for one another and to love one another and to uplift certain situations and scenarios. And I just lost that for a season of time. Resilience, Chris, was a mindset shift. Now, I'm a fitness guy. And so, for any fitness people that listen, runners, lifters, outdoorsy people, sporty people, there's a lot of resilience that could come from a hard, enduring workout. And I think that's really valuable to life. And I definitely will lean on that at times. I think, though, there is life resilience that sometimes you can't get from a workout. It will only come from the darkness and the hardship of life, which is being scared, being broke, feeling like you are holding a lot in that's not good for you, making a physical move to a new town, to a new city, to a new state, to a new country, feeling like you have no purpose. These are things that I feel like we will all feel. I think resilience was me choosing to embrace some of that hardship, choosing to not quit, choosing to speak to the right people, choosing to refuel my faith and my fire internally, and to get up day in and day out. I mean, this is another tidbit in there mindset wise, Chris, but I experienced some moments in my life when we were changing a lot of things and we were moving locations where I really didn't want to get out of bed. And I think everybody
It's
experiences
deep.
that, but I think some people feel that on a day to day, on a monthly, even on a yearly basis. And it was too long for me where I really felt that pressiness. And so there was a resilience, there was a die to self, there was a lean on the right people, there was a embrace the man in the mirror, and you've got to become different in some areas. And so, and accountability, I would say, was the last one, Chris. And I know we touched on some of those things, but the mindset shift in that hardship was I really need people to lean on. I need to be honest with myself. I need to be honest with them. I'm still learning that, if I'm being honest, on the podcast. But I think when you can be accountable for you, accountable for your family, accountable in your relationships, whether that be, I always say, move, shoot, communicate. So just how you move and how you groove, how you aim and how you goal set and how you're specific in things. Everybody's like this in some sort of way. And then how you communicate with your family, with your spouse, with your relationships. Like there's got to be a thread of accountability there that's going to help you improve and help you feel better, and not just feel better, but become better. So that I gave you kind of that Cobra list, right? But the character, ownership, brotherhood, resilience, and accountability were just things that I feel like I absorbed, put together, and really began to live in my mindset shifts from that pivot in life.
And that brings it all together full circle, because in a sense that's what makes you, as your first slogan, bulletproof. It puts a frame of protection around you, and that frame of protection is the Holy Spirit for one, from one aspect, but it also gives you actual goals, a list that
Mm,
that you can check off mentally, physically, whether it's writing it down as well. But all that you said, it was powerful. It brings a moment of honesty, a moment of security and confidence, because as we say here in the green room, we're here in this green room to prepare ourselves for that stage that we're about to go play on, that we do play on, and that stage is what we call life.
mm,
The stage isn't going to change. Life is going to life, whether or not you want to or not. The question is how you prepare and move forward through it to get you through it. And that's what brings us into our how are we thriving after that pivot. And you touched on it eloquently, and you constantly mentioned it's a team effort. It's from an aspect that you have to make sure your communication with your wife and your communication of what you're presenting to your children,
mm.
uh that they see that you aren't giving up. And that's what we need to see. Like, a pivot doesn't stop us, and that goes to anybody that's listening. A pivot is what it's a basketball move. You are momentarily in a position where you are moving a
Right.
different angle. At the end of the day, or at the end of that segment, in that moment of that pivot, you still have one goal you have to shoot at. That goal is not moving. You have to
Right.
get into that goal. How you get to it, whether it's a crossover, turnover, layup, shot, whatever.
Mm,
So this is what, along with your Cobra mindset, I have something that helped me, and I think it's going to help those who are listening. And you can take this back too. Keep an open mind. Sometimes that pivot won't lead you to the perfect next right step. Stay adaptable.
mm.
So that takes you to
That's
two,
it.
to leverage what you've learned. Your skills, your knowledge doesn't go to waste. It should never be a waste.
Right.
Find a way to take what you learned and move with it. And all of that, to trust the process. It's easier said than done. I'm
Right.
still trusting the process right now. A closed door is part of the journey. You can't go through every single door. You are one person.
Mm,
You can try to split yourself in half. Promise you it ain't gonna work. But just know we are here to learn together. And I mean, I still, Carson, I still think about the days where those conversations, of those leadership moments that you have. For me, ultimately, like you mentioned, COVID was a hard time, and you knew that was my worst time. Like, it sent me to hospital moments, and
yeah.
in those moments though, I learned, and you and Aaron were there to be like that guiding principle for me. And ultimately, through, whether it was through the apps of when we had to do teams, or a local conversation with our prayer groups, was through a phone. But ultimately, guess what? I met my wife through an app, and we, after the closing of buildings and everything opened back up, we went out,
Yeah.
we conversated, and now we're married, going on 3 years. That was all from the leadership, and that speaks to you and everything that you've done. And I appreciate you. And I'm saying that here because I know I would not have been in the place I've been if you and Aaron never came into my life.
I appreciate
So
that, man.
facing those closed doors, I thought was my ending. It was just the beginning.
Mm.
I mean, what was your? I say my perspective, but how was your perspective in that time to where we are now?
Yeah, no, I think, and I'll go back to, bro, I really appreciate you. I appreciate those words. I think, there's so many things, man, just worth celebrating in life. Deeper relationships, friends, family, different celebrations that happen for people. This is a small tangent for me, but, there was a time in my life, and I think I'm an ambitious person. I'm a driven person naturally. And the cool thing about that is being able to get a lot of stuff done, being able to be productive, things like that. The backside of that could be negative is you can miss things, you can miss moments, you can miss people, you can miss a lot of importance in life if you move too fast and if you focus too much on performance and productivity. And no pun intended for Bulletproof Human Performance, but I just shout you out in that, bro. I really appreciate that. I think over time for me now, I'm at this point. It's 4 or 5 years later of us having a relationship. Even in that moment of time, just learning, bro, like, and these are, I guess, practical things, and I'll share maybe just some of my heart of where I'm at currently in life. But the practical things, man, that I think God taught me, suffering, experience, changes, the pivots, all those things were able to teach me of like, man, people really matter, relationships really matter, community really matters, being around the right voices, listening and leaning into the right things, knowing yourself. It was just a lot of moments, man. It taught me how to even just be a better friend. It taught me how to be a better communicator. And I'm not talking about platform or stage, because I did a lot of that in my younger years. And I think some of that was wrapped around more insecure reasons, right? But I think now it's like, man, I just want to be able to communicate, love, build relationships, not be transactional. One of my pet peeves is people becoming friends or aiming, and I think this is easy to do in our technology advanced world, is I want to connect with somebody so that I can get something from them. And that bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've all done it. I think that is a way currently in my life. And I know I haven't answered your question just yet, but I just really wanted to say, relational equity, experience, care for people, and celebrating big and small. It can't be missed, or else I think you'll lack a lot of peace and encouragement and appreciation for people. And it is just very easy in this day and age to want to speak with people, be in rooms, be at tables, get certain statuses and labels in your life, all to get to the next thing and all to do an ATM transaction with people. And I don't like that, man. I don't like that for me. I don't like that for people I'm around. I want it to be real and genuine. And sometimes, bro, you're doing this podcast, right? We're talking and we may have a deeper conversation off air. You may have something go on with your family. I may have something go on with my family. And the connection is like, hey, bro, I just want to like love you and serve you because I believe in you. You ain't got to do another podcast for me. You ain't got to drive to Orlando. I don't have to come to, like, it's more of just like, hey, I'm doing it because it's pure. And
Yep.
those are just a lot of leadership lessons, bro, that I learned over time. And now I'm in a place, Chris, to your question, where, dude, I've got two beautiful sons, great boys, crazy energy, but just amazing little guys. I've got a wife. I run a business. I run in the lane of ministry at my church here in Orlando, and I get to lead a lot of houses and a lot of groups and a lot of community and leadership development. And I have a really great space there, just a very generous spot of a little bit of influence and just love and opportunity to continue the mission, which is to make disciples and to show people Jesus and to live out those fruits and to hopefully impact people in Orlando, but also globally. So I get to do that now, man, kind of all over the country, through the computer, through the phone, through our training app, through other things like that, but also here in my city. I haven't been here that long, I feel like, Chris, but we're in a place where we always fill our home with people. We have people over, and you knew that about me back then. So I was kind of doing that
Yep.
back then. I lived in an apartment, but we've got a house out here about 25 minutes from church, 25, 30 minutes from downtown. And man, we love to host. We love to do community. We love to break bread. That dinner party mindset, right? Break bread, make friends, love God. Like, Sometimes I think it's as simple as that. And to be hospitable, I do a lot of training and a lot of coaching in the gym and also just through the phone. And man, I get time with my family. I think the future is bright just in regards to we are really, in that pivot in my life, Chris, not going to go all the way back to the first question, but it challenged my faith, man. And just maybe not just my faith in me, but just unbelief that I had in my walk with Jesus. And to be honest, man, I think everybody's going to go through that. You're going to go through a moment in time where you're like, man, am I really believing this stuff? Am I really holding to this hope? Am I really holding to this thread? Do I really believe, the words in these scriptures? And I had that moment. So I'm thankful that as you ask me now, today, man, dude, I love this word, like this Bible, bro, to be able to soak this up. I love the people we have, my family, the opportunities to minister and to be on mission for people and to grow and train leaders, and to just be a friend and to just help and to see our city thrive and grow, our church, business as well. Just a kicker for me, Chris, last thing I'll say on that is, man, I think it's so easy to be doing a lot of things, maybe with people and business per se, right? There's money and there's things and there's just things you got to do. And I think that if you're asking me maybe um, a current work process that I'm in, like heart work, is dude, we're in March of 2025. And I think there was moments in time, past couple years, where I want things, I want money, I want bigger business, I want more, 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 more. And maybe that's a green room concept. I think that you speak that well and teach that well of like, man, I'm asking the Lord to convict me of like, is it more that I need? Is it more that I'm after? Or is it just the peace and the presence and the contentment of like, man, I've got some really good things in my life. There's more to do and more to attain. But there's work that's being done in my life. There's work that's being done in my wife and in my kids and in the things that we get to be a part of. So my current life season, man, has been a hard but beautiful journey, and I still see the hand of God on it. I've definitely been really fired up. I told you that privately the last like 4 months. And so, man, it's just been exciting. I'm super thankful. I'm just super thankful to be in the place that I'm in currently in life. That's a lot of credit due to a lot of phenomenal people who I've gotten to be around in community. Okay. Well, and I think I probably answered that the best way I could. So yeah, there's that. I think I'm in a place, Chris, where I am really thankful, and that's a credit to a lot of great people. That's a credit to a lot of great just mentors and family and friends. And dude, I'm just walking this line of contentment and gratitude. Not to be cheesy, but I'm trying to get off of the hamster wheel and the rat race at all times through business or through ministry or through life and family and even my performance mindset.
And that's where it's at. And you said all the things that I'm hoping those who watch this can get a word of encouragement, get a feeling that you're not in this alone. This episode is not to show you that you're at the end, that you're just at the beginning. So if you're watching this, please like, share, comment, and then subscribe to the page. I'm growing this platform. It's going to take some time, but I'm appreciative of everyone that has subscribed and has taken the time to listen and appreciate you, Carson. Like I said this earlier, you have done more for me than a lot even of my family members have done. So I appreciate you more than you know. And I thank you for that. You and your family are literally family to me. So you're always a call away. I'm here for you. We've been there. We've been ride or die. We still got that wolf pack. My goal is still to get that wolf tattoo right on my back collarbone.
Come on,
So
bro.
it's
Holy moly.
it's going. It's happening and it's real. But to the crowd, thank you. Please tell us how you like it, and we'll see you again next week. Peace and love.
Thank you guys. Thanks, Chris.